Hi, everyone. This is your week 5 update. Yes, I did say week 5. Hard to believe that we are almost finished with this summer session. We've got this week and then we've got next week where you'll be showcasing the projects that you've been working on. It's Casual Monday here, so I apologize for not being more dressed up. Wanted to make sure I got this message out sooner rather than later. For those of you who have looked at the course calendar for this week, you'll notice that we're kind of looking at what might be considered non-traditional art. I think for a casual museum goer, painting, sculpture, those kinds of artistic expressions come to mind when you hear the word art. So I thought it might be useful at the end of the term to kind of broaden maybe our definition of that. We're going to look at some traditional female craft practices and how they have been kind of pushed to the side, and there's been a movement, in the 70s and continuing today to, find value in that work. We'll use Alice Walker's In Search of My Mother's Garden, which kind of talks a little bit about female arts and the value of them, and where women were allowed to practice some sort of artistic expression. Then we'll look a little bit at performance art. I know this is near and dear to Erin's heart, so kind of exploring what that is all about and how that is connected to women. The other thing we'll do is we'll look at monuments in DC, because there was a really awesome discussion last week on the discussion boards about the Black Lives Matter public art display downtown, and so I thought it might be useful to kind of consider monuments as public practice, public art. You might hear a child screaming right now. That is not my child. That is our neighbor's child. We share a wall. Some of you have heard this before because he has interrupted other sessions. So I just want you to know that is not my child. I am not neglecting my child. I think they might be trying to get him to go down for a nap, and he is not having it. So I'll try to ignore it. Please, you try to ignore it too. Okay, so yes, looking at monuments, and I gave you a kind of map of all the kind of monuments dedicated to women across the city, so that when we get back to DC, you can kind of explore that trail on your own. Let's see. Okay, so the other things this week are small group conferencing for the museum exhibition project. So we're going to be looking at the text for the front matter. So in other words, when you walk into a museum and you see that kind of text on the wall, that's what you'll be writing for your own exhibit. And then you'll also be creating the text for between 6 and 8 images so that we can read and critique that. And more information on that coming soon. The other thing that we're doing this week is we'll have a visit from the National Gallery of Art on Wednesday. That is at a different time. It's at 1:30 to 2:30. That was the only time that this particular person can make it. So that's happening as a synchronous session. And then I've told some of you this, but the National Museum of Women in the Arts, I had not planned on them coming back, but they contacted me a couple weeks ago, and they had such a great first session with you all that they asked if they could return. So they're coming back on Thursday, and they're bringing one of the same people who was in the first session we had with them, but also a bunch of different people to kind of talk about women in art and writing that happens at their museum. So that's another thing for this week. I wanted to say thank you for the great discussion on the discussion boards last week. I mentioned to a lot of you in one-on-one conferencing that the goal of the discussion board is to make it conversational. So again, you don't have to feel compelled to answer the question I'm asking every week. I'm also interested just in the way that you're talking to one another. And there was a lot of that happening last week. People were addressing each other by name, and it just felt like we were kind of creating as much of a community as we could online, because that is definitely a challenge with the online teaching. So we'll try to keep that up for this week. Don't feel like you have to answer my question. Speak to each other, highlight your knowledge of the readings. I think those students that have been receiving check pluses for the discussion board each week are those people who are showcasing their knowledge of the readings for the week, making connections across weeks with different texts, and then, of course, speaking to one another and really trying to create some sort of conversation. The last thing I wanted to say for today is I had asked you, I think I said by 5 o'clock, to do your museum label, the very first one from the semester, run it through that test that the representative from last week mentioned, see what grade level you're writing at. So far, we don't have anything below 9th grade. So it'll be interesting to see what other people come up with. Run it through, send it to me, let me know your score. And then the other thing is Kanchan Balze, who is the artist, local artist who spoke last week. There was a recording up about her and her artistic practice. I thought it would be nice if we could just send her a few kind of reactions to her particular lecture. I know that she was very nervous about presenting her work in this way, especially because it is so connected to her personal life. And I just thought she might appreciate a few words from you all about your experience with her lecture. So if you could also send that to me via email, that would be great. So your results from the readability test and your quote or sentence or reaction to Kanchan for this week, for today, if that works out. I will try to send them to her tomorrow. And then, of course, I still have your artist statements. I'm hoping to have them all finished up by tonight or early tomorrow morning. I, of course, will send an email out when they're finished and posted so that you can read my comments. Okay, I think that's it. I think the baby went to sleep because I do not hear him now. And then I will see you later on this week. Okay,